Yes, sir.
Yes.
This is directed to whoever wants to answer the question. But, what happens to representative government under a policy of binationalism?
That's a very good question. I think that we should think in very relative terms. What I know about what's going on, for example, in some instances, is that this idea of binationalism from a policy perspective is being built very carefully. I'm going to mention as an example the case of the Border Governors Conference, for example. We were engaged a year ago in the development of a transborder, a development plan for the transborder region. The U.S.-Mexico transborder region included the 10 states, the 64 counties and municipalities, and the idea was to identify an agenda for economic, environmental, quality of life, security development in the region. And when we finished the development of the plan and we presented to the governors, Janet Brewer among them, the recommendations that we received was that it cannot be called a plan. It has to be used a different language, something that doesn't imply a directive. It has to be something more like a guidelines, something more optional in terms of what you can do. And what happened, and this is the part I want to emphasize just to try to answer the question, it was called a plan in Mexico, okay? Because planning in Mexico is a very well established instrument, normally done by the public sector, many times from the central government. But in the U.S., it's not something that is done from the central authority going down to localities. It's something that is more from the government. So there was a negotiation there between the governors, the 10 governors, and the negotiation was, okay, let's create something that helps us to work together without necessarily getting entangled with all these institutional, historical, cultural, legal aspects. So binationality is very complex. It's something that I don't believe is going to happen soon or in the future as an institutional thing. It can probably happen at the individual level, but not at that level of policy making. That's my take on that.
I would add that there's a policy that was passed in the early 90s that if you became a U.S. citizen, you would get, I think it's called dual national. No, it's not citizenship. It's nationality. It's not citizenship. And the idea is that you're still, it's not citizenship. You're still able to vote in Mexico, and that's speaking to this transnational and binational community. And so, not surprising, I believe it was President Fox at the time when he was running for election, went to Los Angeles to campaign because Los Angeles is the second largest Mexican city, and you have a large constituency there, right, that are still able to vote for this candidate. So in some ways, we're looking at this right now, this sort of this being able to vote, right, between the two countries, and I think that was part of between the two countries, knowing that the potential voters on both sides. So I think we sort of have that as well right now.
Yeah, well, just one other aspect of that, which isn't exactly the question that you're asking, but along the same lines, that there's many hometown associations in the United States from Mexican hometowns and small towns throughout Mexico. And when politicians often run for office in those places, they come to the United States to basically, gain support and to talk to their constituents. So that's another example of a transnational kind of phenomenon. I suppose you could also find situations where we heard this morning from Jorge about the great number of Americans who live in Mexico. Many people go to Baja California, Southern Baja California, or other parts of Mexico, find huge numbers of Americans who are still connected in some ways to their country of origin. I don't know how many of them are actually voting on a regular basis, but again, we're talking about a transnational phenomenon that supersedes just principally national issues.
Can I add one more thing? It's not just Mexico either, because that's also true for the Dominican Republic. The Dominican leadership will go to New York City to campaign. So I don't think we should portray that this isn't just a Mexico-U.S. kind of thing, where transnational activity or voting or political activity.
Okay, we have a question here.